The following podcast is brought to you on behalf of the Saracens Supporters Association and is not an official product of Saracens Limited. Content provided voluntarily by our guests and contributors are of their own opinion, which may change over time and should not be taken as fact, particularly as the podcast hosts are regularly talking drivel anyway. If you've got some drivel of your own you'd like to share, you can find us on Twitter and Instagram at fezcast_SSA. You can search Facebook for the Fezcast, or you can email fezcast.ssa@outlook.com.
You're listening to the Fezcast.
Well, hello everybody, and welcome to the next edition of the Fezcast with me, Forrest Gump. Sorry, Jess. And joining me today is Sam, John, and Matt. And evening or afternoon or whatever it is, gentlemen. How are we all?
All good. Happy.
Yeah. Well, pretty good weekend, wasn't it, Matt?
It was, yeah, good triple header weekend for the sort of three main sides in the Saracens family, and all three came away with a win. So yeah, pretty happy.
And indeed, John, you had a good weekend, or more importantly, looking over your shoulder at Mini Goody there. Charlie had a pretty special weekend as well down at StoneX with the fancy dress. Although we are claiming that Charlie might have gone on a bender like Alex because he's been at cricket training tonight.
Yeah, I think he wishes he would have been allowed to. But yeah, now the dust has settled on that weekend and my heart rate's returned to normal, and I'm not either trying not to cry because I'm watching the boy do what he was doing, or trying not to be sick because of how nervous I was. I've been home I've actually watched the match back twice now, and I'm still nervous each time. So God knows how I'm going to be in the lead up to the final, but I'm just glad we're there.
Well, absolutely. I mean, yeah, my weekend was in a hotel room in Wakefield, watching it on my laptop. Thanks to my stepson Sam for allowing me to log on to his BD Sport account on my laptop, so I was able to watch the game. But then, obviously, on Sunday was my big day running the Leeds Marathon for Rob Burrow. And before we start, I have to say thank you to everybody who supported that from the Saracens family. Lots of sponsorship came in. I mean, in total now, I think for running this one, I've done over about £2,500 of sponsorship for just this race. And it's about £11,500 in total on all my marathon running. But yeah, actually, the reason we were doing it was for Rob Burrow. And Rob was pushed around. I saw Sir Kev Sinfield, pushing Rob around the course in his especially adapted wheelchair, which was amazing. He got a chance to wave at him and everything. And then Rob was pushed into Headingley, somewhere where he obviously graced the field by Kev, and they stopped 5 yards short of the line, and Kevin got him out of his wheelchair and picked him up and carried him across the line and gave him a kiss. And at that moment in time, I realised it's not rugby union, it's not rugby league, it's rugby, but it's more than rugby, it's humanity and the love and the friendship. And that's what we did it for, you know. And the fact that I was trudging in that heat up those bloody hills for 5 hours, 46 minutes and 53 seconds, the best 5 3/4 hours of my life, to be perfectly honest with you. And it's so worthwhile. So, yeah, thank you for everybody supporting me on that one. But, you know, anyway, back to the rugby though, guys. And the first things first to say, I know, John, you're saying you were a little bit, you know, nervous about it, but I thought, never in doubt. I tell you why it was never in doubt is because as I was driving up to Wakefield to my hotel, Paul Grayson came on the radio. He was doing obviously the Radio 5 coverage, and it was with Mark Chapman who was doing the football and everything. And they asked him, you know, how do you think it's going? He said, "Oh, it's all right." He says, "Saints have got a plan to beat Saracens." And apparently, the plan was for Saints to forget exactly what they did good this season, which is throw the ball around with Gay Abandon in the backs and score lots and lots of tries, and just pick a big pack to try and take on Saracens. And we just hit them. They never got gain line success. Faz got 4 turnovers alone. I don't know how many turnovers the team got, but it was in double figures. And we just absolutely mullered them. And then when we got the opportunity, we didn't finish all the opportunities, but the key ones we finished. And there was the one where we'd gone the length of the field and nearly scored. But yeah, it was never in doubt for me.
Who's going to disagree?
Go on, John. You saying you were nervous and that you were biting your nails the whole way through?
But that's because it doesn't matter who we're playing in what competition. I'm always the same. I'm a terrible when it comes to stuff like that. But I'm just hoping that you're going to tell me that the final's going to be who's going to go our way, and I can start relaxing already, Jez.
Well, I'll never say that. I mean, and we'll talk about the final next week more. But I mean, I suppose the first key talking point is the fact that we did ride our luck a little bit. Let's be honest about it. We'll stick our hands up in the air. Who thought Sean Maitland should have probably got a card of any colour?
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I definitely would. I think, I mean, when you look at Twitter the day after and the opposition, all you see is that they're moaning about the quality of the refereeing. And I think, look, we've talked about the refereeing a lot on this podcast over the course of this year. And realistically, even some of the best, even the great Wayne Barnes has had a couple of shockers this year. So I think the quality of the refereeing hasn't been fantastic. If I'm honest, did it change the game? No. Would Northampton still have lost if the ref didn't make any poor decisions? No. Yes, they still would have done. But Sean, I mean, definitely should have got a yellow, shouldn't he? I don't think it's a red, but I think it's pretty much a slam dunk yellow, isn't it?
Well, absolutely. But I mean, also by the same definition, I think if he had got a red, I think we would have all sat there and gone, okay, fair enough. That's what happens. And probably on appeal, he would have, got it rescinded down to a yellow maybe. But we wouldn't been sat there saying, that's complete rickets. You could see what it is.
Do you know what an interesting thing is, though, Jez, is I read the write-up in The Independent yesterday, and the guy, I can't remember who the guy is who did the report, but he actually he particularly picked out that he said Carl Dixon had a really good game. He particularly mentioned it.
I see. I mean, I'll totally disagree with that one, Sam, and for two reasons. First thing I will say is that Sean had done what he'd done 20 minutes into the game. That would have definitely been a card. The fact of the matter was it was the first play, and I think that did save him a certain bit. But Matt, my comment I made earlier on is that I thought Carl Dixon was poor. But what he was he was consistently poor for both sides. The difference was that Saracens worked out what Carl Dixon was refereeing and played to it an awful lot better. And I think a lot of that comes from Owen chatting to Carl the whole way through it and saying, what do you want from us, sir? What do you want from us, sir? And we actually going in and doing it. I did think at the start of the second half, there were times when Carl Dixon kept Saints in the game with some really illogical readings of the breakdown. I mean, we'd got 274 turnovers by half time. It could easily have been the same amount of turnovers second half, Matt, other than Carl Dixon just decided to change his understanding of what was going on. Is that fair to say?
I don't really know. really good podcast, this. No, look, people are obviously seeing things in Carl Dixon that we're not. He's risen pretty quick and he's going to the World Cup. So powers that be like what they're seeing from Carl Dixon. So I think a lot of us need to step back maybe and sort of have a look. And I think sometimes actually he's frustratingly by the book. I don't think he necessarily, other than maybe the Sean Maitland incident, necessarily sort of looks at the context of what's going on. He just reads the letter of the law and takes it that way. I mean, a good case in point actually. There's a lot of complaints about the Maro Itoje yellow card for a knock on, that it should have been a penalty try, on the basis that a marauding forward that would have caught the ball would have absolutely flattened Ruben de Haas and scored a try. Now that's probably true, but the law says Ruben de Haas is in the way. Whether or not you think he's going to be able to make the tackle or not is totally irrelevant. He's there covering, so therefore no penalty try. And Carl Dixon has
well, to be fair, that wasn't Carl's decision, was it? The TMOs turned around and said, no, there's a covering player. And he's not taking into account. He's not taking into account it could have been me covering back.
Yeah.
Or you, Matt. We were there and we could have stopped it, could have knocked the ball out.
At the end of the day, if Dicko thinks it's a penalty try, it's his decision in that situation, and he didn't. And he's quite right to. The decisions that changed the game, maybe from a Northampton point of view, I mean, they were incredibly unlucky to concede a penalty try and a yellow card themselves, because the phase of play beforehand, Owen Farrell was in touch. It was even shown in the stadium. And we were on the wrong end of one of those earlier on in the season, and it all balances out. Unfortunately, it's balanced out for us in a knockout match.
I was going to say the same, Matt, about the exactly what you just said about the covering defender. Don't forget that happened to us exactly the same thing in the final. Last time we were in the final, 2019, Slade got a yellow, no penalty try because there was a covering defender, but we had two players outside, and only Jack Noel was defending. And again, you'd probably say with two on one, even as good a defender as Jack Noel is, we're probably scoring that try. But to the letter of the law, it's no try. So it all comes out in the wash, doesn't it?
I mean, the one decision that Carl Dixon did give that really annoyed the hell out of me was when Alex Mitchell threw a pass at half an inch off the floor straight. I think it was Hugh Tizard, wasn't it? Who wasn't lying flat enough on the floor. I mean, the bloke's 6'6" and 19.5 stone. I mean, how flat can you get? And Alex Mitchell bought that one, and I mean that was the old scrum half union there, John, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, I think at that point in the game, Mitchell was just trying to do anything he could to sort of get them a foothold in the game. It was fairly early, I think, and it was just a case of, they probably felt aggrieved at the original decision you mentioned about Maitland, even though on the coverage and in all the write-ups so far, I've not read the fact that he was pushed in the back as he jumped, which added mitigation to the situation. But I can't really blame Mitchell for doing what he done. I don't like it. But he did it. It worked, and they scored 3 points from it. But it didn't matter in the end, thankfully.
Yeah, I'm absolutely all for it. To be honest, if a forward is too slow to get back, then you'd run into him, you trip over him, you do whatever you can to buy a penalty. Absolutely fine.
I see. I disagree with you. Us forwards, we get we've made the big hit. We put ourselves in the line and everything like that. We're making every effort to make ourselves. It wouldn't have taken much. It was more effort for Alex Mitchell to throw that ball at Hugh Tizard than it was to actually release. And if you watch Ivan Van Zyl, the way that he wants, it's a difference in how you want to play the game. Ivan Van Zyl will put that pass and just loop it up a bit over, and he did it on a number of occasions. Courtney Laws and Lewis Ludlam were past rucks for fun on the weekend because they had to try and do something to stop the Saracens' juggernaut. The fact of the matter was, we wanted to open the play up, and we would have avoided that situation. Alex Mitchell needed some points from somewhere, and he literally threw the ball on the floor and bought that penalty. But
to add to just as a little build on that as well, to give a third option as a 10, I probably would have, Finn Smith sitting there, there's space out wide, he's probably called something, and Finn Smith's probably actually a bit annoyed because the quality of the player that he is, there was space out there, and you watch it back on the replay, he's probably going, for God's sake, Alex, there was a try in the corner here, potentially. And I know that I probably would have got a bit annoyed if that had happened.
Absolutely, 100% right there, Sam. What did typify the Saints' performance, though, was the Ivan Van Zyl try. And, I'm going to come on to another bone of contention here, but Alex Waller, who, let's be honest about it, thieved a Premiership trophy from us by scoring a try that never was. And that still rankles, however many years ago that was. That's coming up for 10 years ago now, isn't it? Not far off. 8 years ago, was it 2016? And, for him to, give away the most stupid, obvious penalty going, but then to give the ball, literally, I mean, he could have run over the line and said, "Oi, Ivan, come here, score the try." I mean, literally, that was as much an own goal in football. That was like a centre back rising like a salmon and putting one past the keeper with the head off the corner, wasn't it? It was dull, in the words of Brian Moore, dull, dim rugby of its finest quality.
Well, less Waller, more Wally, I think, is the only way of describing that. Like you say, it was an own goal, wasn't it? It really was an own goal. But do you know what? We'll take it. But you know what as well? Ivan is great at spotting those little opportunities. And actually, in the heat at the moment, he still had to go bang it within a split second. You either do it or you don't, and he had to make that decision straight away, and he still did it, and he scored, and he had the pace to do it as well. So, as much as it was gifted to an extent, Ivan still had to do a bit of work there.
He did. I mean, I will say, any scrum half worth his salt is going to look at that and say, one, there's space in front of me. And even if he'd been caught up before the line, he's got us on the front foot, and all of our support would have been coming, that would have resulted in a try at some point, or an offence by a Saints player coming from an offside position to start. That was the percentage there, and any good scrum half would do that. And I'm sat there looking, when does Ivan Van Zyl qualify for England under residency? Because he's the best scrum half in the country, without a shadow of a doubt. And this is the next thing that's going to bring me on. I mean, he deservedly got man of the match, kind of like disproving Matt's theory about television games where they'll give it to either Owen Farrell or Elliot Daly or, another one of the superstars. He's not a superstar outside of the club particularly. I mean, you go to rugby fans around the world and say, who's Ivan Van Zyl? Who does he play for? What position does he play in? Outside of, even inside the Premiership, there's not going to be a great deal of people who could probably answer that question of your casual rugby fans, but he's been different class this year. And I've just had a bit of an argument with Rugby Inside Line, who asked, here's your 5 best scrum halves in the Premiership, who you're picking for a World 15, and Ivan Van Zyl's not in there. And JVP is, and Ben Youngs is. And you start thinking, have you not watched any rugby this year?
Well, there'll be a few more people in Northampton who know who Ivan Van Zyl is now, that's for sure.
Oh, without a shadow of a doubt. I mean, he's different class. I mean, and Matt, I'll hand it over to you to tell you what we've got planned about votes and everything. But I mean, as I said on the tweet when you put it out, anybody disagrees with me that Ivan Van Zyl is not only the best scrum half of the club, but the best scrum half of the Premiership, I'll meet you in the car park when my marathon legs aren't quite as.
Yeah, we'll get going probably the day this show goes out. Actually, we'll start doing a poll on. We'll get it running on certainly on Twitter and Instagram, getting everyone's votes for player of the season in each position, and then put together a team. You can email fezcast.ssa@outlook.com if you'd like to get a team of the year in for us off your own back. Fair enough. But yeah, we'll sort of put out a vote for each position. But yeah, I think the number 9 shirt. I mean, we'll stick it out there anyway. But I can't imagine it's going to be much of a contest, that one.
No. I mean, that's a pretty good. Although I was very impressed with Ruben de Haas, which is a shame seeing as he's going at the end of the season. When he came on, and particularly for Max Maitland's try, I mean, that was slicker than a slick thing in a slick land, wasn't it? I mean, that was just de Haas, Farrell, Elliot Daly, Max Maitland's, and I think Nick Mullins' commentary is he's going to run all the way to Twickenham. It was absolutely spot on. I mean, an iconic moment there from Nick on the commentary. That's superb stuff.
Yeah, do you know, I was actually really upset when I saw that de Haas was leaving, because I do think that he is a little mini Van Zyl, and I think that having two scrum halves that are really similar does allow you to interchange them quite a lot. And I do think that Davis has gone down a gear this year, unfortunately. Maybe he was just playing above, where he should be last season, but certainly this year he's dropped off. And I just thought that we could certainly, Van Zyl's played a lot of rugby this year, actually, and having de Haas there next season would have given that opportunity to do the old sort of Farrell Hodgson thing that we used to do, the sort of the 20-minute, 60-minute type thing, and to interchange him a little bit more. That extra year for de Haas would have helped him. So it's a real shame. And you're right, he come on and I thought he had one of his best sort of 10 minutes or so in a Saracens shirt, which is unfortunate to see him go.
Absolutely. Now, as we end this little section before we go on to chatting about the other news outside of this game, I wanted to mention another few players. First of all, Elliot Daly coming back from injury. He just makes a difference to any team he plays in. And I mean, I've been discussing on Twitter again today. You imagine a back line with Faz at 10 and George Ford and Finn Smith. Forget about Marcus Smith as far as I'm concerned, as your 3 10s. Ollie Lawrence and Elliot Daly outside, and Henry Slade, you might as well bugger off to France as well, quite honestly, because you're not getting an England team if Elliot Daly's fit. At 13, that's going to frighten an awful lot of people, isn't it, surely?
Well, you know what, that same article that I mentioned in the Independent brought up something really interesting, and it was talking very much about not just does Elliot Daly benefit an England team or any team that he's in, he benefits Owen Farrell. And one of the ways in which potentially England can have a half-decent World Cup is if we surround Owen Farrell with players that help him. And there are two players in the Saracens team that are going to benefit him the most. One, we know of, Elliot Daly. The other one, wildcard. Get Alex Good in the England squad because he will, as a one-off tournament player, it's going to be his last hurrah for England. Get him in there because he will help Owen Farrell be a better player, and he will help us progress much further in this tournament than we would otherwise do. So that's my wild card. I haven't spoken to Steve-O yet, but I'll send him a text.
Yeah, fair days. Yeah, no, it's a call, isn't it? And I thought Goody had another spectacularly good game on the weekend. We've already mentioned Ivan Van Zyl. The one person I do really want to mention, though, and I thought really stepped up this week, and he's been taking a bit of criticism, John, but the big man, Maro Itoje, really put a shift in this weekend, didn't he, John?
He's a big game player, mate. That's what he does. I think he took a lot of undeserved black, to be honest, during the Six Nations, and he just does what he does. He was immense. He was everywhere. That the defensive effort of the team was led by Maro through the middle there, and he was everywhere. He was a bit unlucky with the yellow card at the end, but it is what it is. I think he was a bit tired and flailing around by then, but yeah, he was another 9.5 out of 10. I'd give him. He was immense.
Absolutely, 100%. And for you, Matt, I mean, a great performance from him. And another person I want to mention, I mean, Mako Vunipola gets some headlines. He was, he didn't do the flashy stuff, but he made a hell of a lot of tackles. Marco Riccioni, though, another one who bubbles under that people don't necessarily know about too much, but he was great as well, wasn't he, Matt?
He was, yeah. I mean, just quickly on Maro Itoje, there is nothing I like to see more in rugby than a second row breaking the line. It just looks absolutely hilarious. Just this giraffe wondering what the hell he's doing, where everyone is. I'm terrified. But, yeah, Marco Riccioni, I mean, obviously he had a very, very bad injury last season, and he took a little while to get going and to recover from that, which is absolutely fair enough. But I think, yeah, since he's come back in, there was a little bit of time where I was sort of saying that he doesn't look like someone that can actually last more than a half of rugby, but then that probably is because of the injury and things that he's had. But so consistent over the last, probably since about the European fixtures, I'd say, start of the European fixtures, he's looked absolutely brilliant. And yeah, I hope we've got him for a very long time. And yeah, you know, who's Vincent Koch? Who remembers Vincent Koch? It is very strange that at tight head we've made a couple of little changes, and we were very, very worried about that position. But between Riccioni and then Christian Judge and Alec Clary, that trio has been absolutely excellent all season. And then we're going into next season as well with Harvey Beaton coming back. That's a really good four without having your big superstar in there. So yeah, excellent, really.
Well, look, we've done this game now. I mean, I'll just say we've all got cheesy winners' grins on our face. And we're looking forward to seeing what Charlie brings to the final. Obviously, I mean, I think you got to go down full Goody to the final, Charlie. So
maybe next week.
Fair dues. We'll have a word from one of our advertisers, and then we'll come back and have a discussion about a few of the other areas of the club and what's going on in the world of rugby.
You are listening to the Fezcast, which is proudly sponsored by the Saracens Supporters Association, and I'm Alison Davis, one of the SSA committee. For a £10 annual subscription, the SSA provides our members with monthly newsletters, virtual and in-person player events, away match ticket allocations, and we organise pre-match gatherings at away matches. We sponsor men's and women's players, and we support the Saracens Foundation Track Club on behalf of our members. On top of all that, every year we have a seasonal SSA badge, which is exclusive to members. Where else can you get that much value for a tenner? Join now at membermojo.co.uk/SSA, or come and see us on match day in the Oasis at the Stonex.
This is the Fezcast.
Well, welcome back to our next part of the Fezcast. And the important news is a bit of news about some signings. We've had some news about some people leaving, including Eduardo Bello, who I think I've said I'd forgotten he was actually playing for the club. I mean, just hasn't worked out for Eduardo, has it, Sam?
No, I think I mentioned on the group as well. It was a weird one. I was at his first game, which was a Prem Cup away game to Northampton, and I was when he came on, I thought, oh, this would be good. He's fresh from Argentinian duty. He should be fit. They're just working him into the team, and I don't think it's not usual that we see a Saracens player look uninterested, and that's what I got from it. And bearing in mind we got absolutely slaughtered, there were a lot of other players on the side that I thought looked a lot better than him. So, and maybe it was a temperament issue rather than a quality issue that kept him out of the team. But as we've already said as well, we thought both sides of the scrum were going to be tough this year on the props, but actually we've had quite a few that have come through and done all right. So there just obviously hasn't been a place for him.
Absolutely not. And that's just one of those things that happens. Other news that hasn't been committed, although Billy Vannapola's done a interview this week where he was asked the two questions. Have you given up on England? Are you leaving Saracens? And he categorically said no and no. So, we'll wait for the communication from the club. Charlie's sat there with his dad, John. You got the tip the wink, as it were, Charlie, that Sean Maitland was staying when you asked him the question, and that's been announced as well. Isn't that right, Charlie?
Yep.
Absolutely. There you go. Man of few words, but he gets in there and gets the scoots and everything. But yeah, so Sean Maitland and Alex Good, official members of Saracens Dad's Army, but they've re-signed Matt. Interesting, because the one thing that everybody's then commented straight off is, well, I presume that puts the kibosh on Anthony Watson, who's the name that's been linked with us a lot, coming to the club. But then again, Matt, I mean, let's be honest about it. Goody and Sean, they just want to play rugby. They're playing for peanuts, aren't they?
I know they're not. Well, certainly Sean Maitland. I'm probably speaking out of turn, really, but I know he's. I don't think he's on megabucks, because I think he certainly took a cut deal to stay with us at around the time where anyone was allowed to leave if they wanted to. Kids at school in the area, perfectly happy. So yeah, I don't know that he was ever looking to go anywhere else. And Sam's already had his controversial one saying that Alex Good needs to be in the England squad. I am happier that Sean Maitland is staying on than I am sad about Max Malin's leaving, which some people might disagree with. I think Sean has had a better season than Max, and I think on balance in the squad, knowing roughly what the two of them probably want money-wise, I think that's probably the better option that we've got.
Well, absolutely. I mean, the first thing to say, Sean Maitland's playing for a contract. Obviously, somebody's turned around to him at the club and said, look, you need to prove your worth for us to give you that piece of paper to sign. And fair dues, he stood up and he's got 8 in 8, including 2 on the weekend, number one. And number two, yeah, you're absolutely right. I think Max Malins is a professional and has acted entirely professionally this year, but he wants to play fullback. And with Charles Piatel going off to Japan, that option is available to him at Bristol Bears. Be interested to see whether they do play him at fullback at Bristol Bears. But, we're bringing in the lad from London Irish. We've got Elliot Daly. Alex Goods signed a new 2-year contract. For him, he's going to get the dosh and he's going to get to play the position he wants to play. And, you can't argue with that, because I think if he'd another season at Saracens playing wing when he wants to play fullback and perhaps not getting as much money as perhaps he thought he deserved, you would then begin to see a drop-off quite naturally, because that's just how psyches work, John, isn't it?
Well, yeah. I mean, firstly, there's a lot to unpack there. I think first of all, with Good and Maitland staying, I think that probably what the club didn't want to do was break up that Dad's Army, as you said, too much. We're losing Taylor, we're losing Ray as it is. You don't want to let go of too much experience all in one go. And I think that with the players that are coming in, Tom Parton, as you mentioned, and there's Tom West and Willis and Simpson, that someone needs to show the way and say this is the Saracens way that served us so well over the years. And now that class of 2008 has only got Jamie George and Owen Farrell left from it, I think. But yeah, you're always going to find that. I'm sure Max Maitland thinks there's probably about 400,000 reasons why he's going to Bristol. I'm guessing somewhere around that mark, and fair play to him. But this is also another opportunity, as you mentioned earlier, Vincent Koch. We thought we was going to miss him terribly, and we probably did during the time Marco Riccioni was injured. But this gives an opportunity now to someone like Ben Harris, who's waited patiently, to be fair to him, who's quite similar to Maylands in physically and speed and everything else. So it gives an opportunity then for someone to come up through the ranks. And you've had, Rotimi Shegan signed a new contract, and I think Lewington's got one more year. So, there's options still there. So we could probably afford to let him go, create some space in the salary cap, and probably end up with a stronger squad from September onwards, after the World Cup, than perhaps what we've had this year. Because that's how this season feels in comparison to last, for sure.
I think Matt made one of the best points on the group, talking about Maylands, as if he didn't play for Saracens, would he score as many tries? Because there are a few. Okay, there's been some notable ones where they've definitely been Maylands tries, but any winger worth their salt, any winger that's going to play for England should have the ability to make their own tries. But the reality is, do we think a Saracens player will finish higher up the try scoring table than Max Maylands next season? And I think arguably there could be 2 or 3 potentially. So, because he won't get the same opportunities for those run-in tries that just top up, that position at Bristol than he will do at Saracens. So, I mean, it remains to be seen. I might be eating my hat this time next season, but yeah, I think we've got enough strength in depth in that position to cover the loss.
Oh, absolutely, yeah, 100%. Well, all things to look forward to, and I'm sure there'll be more signings coming up. Want to have a quick word about the ongoing situation with rugby in general, and we see London Irish haven't been able to pay wages again, and it's all kicking off down there in Brentford. The RFU have said, you've got until the end of the month to prove that you can do it. I expect someone to come in with a few quid who suddenly appears to have some link to Wasps at some point in the dim dark past and everything. But Wasps seem to be able to get away with everything. Perhaps kept afloat by directors' tax liabilities, who knows, and whatever, allegedly. I'll throw that one in there. I don't want Matt to be sued by anybody. But yeah, I mean, it's an absolute mucker's fuddle, isn't it, at the moment? I mean, over to you, Sam. You're our financial expert.
Well, you're not going to get any arguments from me. It's do you know what's a real shame is that, and if we want to chuck in a little bit of controversy, I said this at the weekend, maybe after I had a couple of pints, and maybe I shouldn't have said it, but when everything happened with us and the salary cap and all that kind of stuff, all the top boys in France and the guys at the top of the tree at Leinster laughed at English rugby and said, here's a team that's found a way of building a cracking team, amazing culture. Spending money above the salary cap, but figuring out a way of doing it in probably a potentially an appropriate way. And yes, of course, we needed sanctions, but what happened was they vilified us for doing it. And off the back of that, what we've seen is systematically other clubs not being able to do what we did, which is get absolutely destroyed and still come back up with the bulk of our squad, taking pay cuts to ensure that we are below the salary cap. We've been, I believe, Saracens have been the shining light of English rugby over the last couple of years, showing actually what can be done to work within the salary cap because you've built that foundation of culture. And unfortunately, other clubs have done silly things, and now they're suffering as a result of it. The underfunding of the Championship has a real strong role to play in what's happening in the Premiership. And like you said, it seems like Wasps seems to be able to get away with anything. And it's a real shame that we're losing potentially the likes of Worcester. I think you're right. Irish will come good, but who's next? A Bath losing money, a Gloucester losing money. You just don't know, do you? And what's been a massive shame this year is it's in terms of the quality of the rugby and the excitement of the rugby on the pitch this year. It's been one of the best seasons in living memory. But it's been marred by the loss of two awesome clubs from the division and a big cloud of uncertainty hanging over the head of everyone else.
Oh, absolutely, 100%. Look, we could go on forever about this, and perhaps at some point we will do, maybe at the start of next season. But let's have another break here now, and then we'll come back and do a quick review of the women versus Exeter Chiefs women on Sunday.
Hi guys, I'm Alex Loonton and I'm a proud Looseheads ambassador.
I'm Sydney Gregson and I'm a Looseheads ambassador.
We're a rugby mental health charity working to tackle the stigma. You can find us at Looseheads on all social media channels or at looseheads.co.uk.
The Looseheads mission is to place a mental health lead at every rugby club. Get in touch now to find out more. Take care and enjoy the rest of the podcast.
Enjoy the rest of the pod.
This is the Fezcast.
So welcome back to the last part of today's show, and we need to discuss the women's game. Let's be honest about it. Let's be fair. After the men's final, there's still about 17 weeks worth of the women's game to go ahead. So, our season normally finishes the end of May, where we turn around and say we'll go and put our feet up and not do any recording. We've got a lot of, hopefully a lot of work to do with the women's game leading up, hopefully, to a Alliance 15's final for the women. And Jo, to her credit, has got a whole list of the girls who want to come and talk to us. I mean, first time ever in any of our four lives, I think the girls have actually queued up to talk to us. Certainly didn't happen in nightclubs in my day. But they all want to talk to us about the rugby and everything. So, Jo,
hang on. Let's be honest. They don't want to come and talk to us, do they? They want to come and talk to Jo.
Jo and the wider Saracens family. But we do need to discuss, though, on the weekend, another fine victory for Saracens Women. Got a bit of early revenge for the Alliance Cup final defeat at Exeter. 29-22. I suppose the only issue is the Chiefs get a bonus point, which does kind of could be, very valuable at the end of the season when it comes to the playoffs. If we remain in third and have to go down to Exeter or to Gloucester to play an away match, we know what it's like in the men's semi-finals, that the home side normally wins. Home advantage is so important. So, that's the only thing I suppose they will take from it. But we keep fighting. I mean, how many games have they got left now, Matt, before the playoffs?
Yeah, it's 3 games left. And it's interesting, actually, because I think we'd probably rather play Gloucester Hartpury away if it does come to that, because I think we have got a much better record against them at their place than we do playing Exeter in Exeter. But we're 3 games to go. We're 7 points behind Exeter and 9 points behind Gloucester. So we've got to take 15 points from our last 3 games and hope that those two sides, at least one of them, slips up. And at the last game of the season, they are actually playing each other. So there is an opportunity to nip in there, but there's also an opportunity for both of them to engineer something. So we'll have to see what happens with that. But I think Bristol are pretty pivotal in it as well. I think one of the two sides have got to play Bristol, who are sitting in 4th. And might even be playing Quins as well, sitting 5th. So there are a couple of banana skins for both sides, and we just need to make sure that we win all 3 games that are left and pick up any pieces where we can.
The thing is, I think that there was to win the championship, we're probably going to have to play Exeter at some point, whether it's in the semi or in the final. So I think, bearing in mind what happened the previous week, albeit with a slightly less well-known side, should we say, I think just from a mindset point of view, getting that win on Sunday was really important, because we now, having 2 losses on the trot, it really does. It's that little percentage that could kill us off if we end up having to play them, as I say, in the playoffs. So I think that was the most important thing. Okay, they got the bonus point, but I think that was a really, really important thing for us to get that W.
Yeah, and for you, I mean, you're looking forward to the remaining remaining games of the women's season?
Yes, mate. Yeah. I think they're, as has just been mentioned, with that weakened side that played the week before, there's obviously a massive jump up when all the internationals come back, and that was it. Like as again, it's been previously mentioned, the only blemish on the copybook was that trying the red right at the end. Other than that, it was such a great performance, and May Campbell scoring a 20th try in all competitions, I believe it was. I don't want to make jokes about.
Wasn't even off of the back of a maul either.
No, it wasn't. Yeah, it was like a little snipe, wasn't it? She's done really well. She's probably I don't say the best hooker at the club, but she's been great this season. But yeah, it's still all to play for. That's the most important thing. And even though this season's been a bit of a weird one with the scheduling and what have you for the women, still all to play for. And it's exciting times for everyone involved in Saracens.
It's a shame that you were busy running, Jez, because I think for all of the talk that we've had of Ben Earl this season, I think actually the best performer at 7 over the course of the weekend was Sharifa Casalo. Tackling, she probably made about 40 tackles in the game for all I know, turnovers as well, an absolute wrecking ball. And Exeter are known pretty well for their physicality, and she stood up perfectly, and not someone that possibly is in your starting 15 for most matches if absolutely everyone is fit and available. So, yet another player who's standing up and showing that she's well worth her place in that team.
And of course, Marley Packer signing a new contract as well at the club. Yep. I mean, the options at 7 are limited, but there is a hell of a lot of good back row players in that women's side with Grace Jones and then Grace Jones as well. Grace Law, sorry.
And, for the rhythm.
I missed that signing.
But obviously Poppy Cleal and the rest there. There's lots and lots of talent there. So lots to look forward to going forward to the end of the season. And
I think we need to watch this space with our players as well. Just before we finish, the merry-go-round has started for player signings, and it looks like there's a bit of a shuffle of the pack with the England players, especially with Leicester women and Ealing Trailfinders women both coming into the league for next season. They are making some massive signings. I mean, Abby Dow being the first player named by Ealing in their squad for this season. We don't know yet. We don't know what their squad's going to look like, but we could end up losing some big players, and it gets even more competitive in that league. So there's plenty to look out for over the next few weeks.
Do you know, as a little question on Ealing, and I'll get your thoughts on this. I thought this when I saw that signing. Do we think that perhaps Ealing are thinking that by putting a team into the Premier 15s and hopefully doing pretty well, showing that they've got the financial ability to be stable and succeed in that league, is a way of them also being able to highlight that as a club as a whole, they will be able to succeed and perform at the top level. And it's kind of it'll just be a little nudge. It'll be just something else they can add to the CV to say we can do this and we deserve to be there.
It's definitely a good way of doing it.
Yeah, undoubtedly so. I think it's all to the benefit. It's all to the advantage. You present yourself in a great way. The trouble is, what you're then looking at is people who have proven themselves at Premier League, Premier Rugby, and English RFU have been about as good at what they do as I am at obviously running marathons. Like, they can do it, but they're never going to win it. But there we go. Gentlemen, thank you for your time. Next week we will be back. Keep your eyes on the social media, sir, what we might be able to show for you in the build-up to the big final at Twickenham, where we'll all be at, having a few beers, enjoying ourselves, and never know, we might record something at the final as well. And then, as I say, we're back next week with all of that. So keep your eyes on the social media for what happens next week. But other than that, gentlemen, thank you for your time. And Charlie as well, you're included as one of the gentlemen now. And thank you for your input. And we will be back soon. And thank you, everybody, for listening in. All the best.
This is the Fezcast.